So welcome back to the Horningfoot Ferry YouTube channel, and in this episode we're going to have a closer look at the boat. The Horningfoot Ferry is roughly 26 foot and is an ex-ship's lifeboat. Now part of its history was that Andy Banner, who once run the ferry, bought up this one, and supposedly, so we hear, a sister boat to this one, which ended up at Bewilderwood, which is the kiddies' sort of fantasy playground place just outside Horning. So this one was apparently, now if I've got this wrong, please do tell me, this was named after Andy's grandfather, who was named Stanley Arthur. So this boat has been called Stanley Arthur ever since. Right, we've just come to the other side of the river because partway through filming, and of course I've got some passengers turn up. Let's take a look at one or two little close details. At the front and the back, you've got these davit hooks, or I'm not quite sure if that's what they were called, what obviously were used for launching and retrieving lifeboats in its earlier guise. We've got nav lights because occasionally we sometimes use them. Running back, you can see the seating we've got. This middle thwart will come out, which means that for bikes we can get so much more, we can stack them so much easier sideways, especially when we're sort of looking after these sportifs. All this lot needs replacing. Obviously the floor and that, the floor is fiberglass sheeting, and there are areas where that has been worn through. So that's another little job, especially down there, because that takes a lot of stick. That's going to need redoing as well. You notice we've got man overboard ladder there, just in case. It's a stipulation that the Broads Authority want us to carry. Woodwork on the floor there needs replacing. That's where they had to put the keel cooling in when they replaced the engine. Last winter I started replacing all the decking at the back with marine ply, because it was in a bit of a mess, and so we're gradually getting through that. The sides are done, but they're not here ready to go on, but it was a case of other jobs that needed doing as well, like possibly replacing the exhaust pipe, getting a new custom one built for that. There's some wiring as well. The whole switchboard there needs rewiring as well. We've had fun and games, and to actually keep us going I've had to kind of hot wire a starter button. Looking at the engine that we've got now, what we used to have was a 3-cylinder air-cooled Lister Petta, which was very worn, very noisy, and very, very vibratory, if you like. It made a huge amount of noise, huge amount of smoke, and it was not passenger friendly, let's say. So after dipping in our pockets when we got pension pots up and things like that, what we ended up with was the following. Let me show you. Just underneath, we're going up the cowling, and we've got there a 3-cylinder 330 Nanny. It's been brilliant. There's plenty of power there when we need it, and sometimes we do for getting out of scrapes with higher boats that are coming down the wrong side of the river or what have you. The ones that suddenly will stop in front of you for no apparent reason. But the Nanny's been good. As I say, we've had to have keel cooling in there, which has worked all right so far. I need to consider, and it may well be that if any people watching this have got canal boats, I know a lot of canal boats use keel cooling, is there any maintenance that needs doing on it? I wasn't quite sure if maybe we might have to drain it at the end of the season and replace the antifreeze and what have you in there. But yeah, if you can put any comments in the comments box below, that would be really, really useful. There's another thing about the Nanny which I can't understand, and this air filter. The air filter, or the air box, I think we've worked out it's actually an air silencer. There's no actual filtration unit within it, although they charge a blinking fortune for it anyway. The problem I had with this one is that the box kept falling off at slightly higher revs. So I've had to do some real serious bodge jobs just to make sure it stays on there. Also, another thing is that the header tank doesn't see any water at all, so I do wonder what the need for that is. Right, now let's have a look at the back of it. This always provides lots and lots of fun and games for people coming and trying the ferry out, and that's the steering gear. Now traditionally this was straightforward tiller steer, and to a degree of course it still is, but it's got this extension here. Now this extension I think is brilliant, but a lot of my colleagues that have handled the boat don't like it. In the olden days when we had the Lister Petter engine, let me try and sort of describe how it was. So we look in front of us and we've got the engine just sitting there. The gear lever, when you're in forward, you were down there, the gear lever was way forward, and the throttle was down that side there. And the problem was that if you were going, where's the tiller? If you got the tiller hard over where you're going, because you had to put it hard over, it's the only way that you can steer this boat, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. If you put it hard over, there's no way that you can actually reach with your hands the gear lever as well. It was absolutely mad. I mean, you had to be like Twizzle, you'd had to have a span of about 7 foot at least to be able to actually sort of handle the boat, take the thing out of gear when you were steering. So what someone has done, and I'm not quite sure when it was put on, was to put an extension on, just like you might get with a sailing dinghy. And personally, I find for what we're doing with this is actually brilliant, because it actually means that you can actually steer the boat just by pushing forward like that. You can stay in the same place. It's easy. You're on the right hand side of the boat where you've got all the controls there, so it's easy peasy. Even if I can go hard over and still have control for the gears and acceleration and throttle, what have you. And yeah, so this is a bit strange. Now what we're looking on doing is actually putting a wheel steering in. I've got a wheel, but the question is, let's step back a little bit so you can see what we're dealing with. Hello?
All the best, Dave.
Oh, are you off now?
Yeah, I'll be in touch.
Okay, yeah, do that. Take care. Oh yes, that'd be brilliant. Excellent. Now there's a surprise. The chap that's just gone past in the boat actually is an old music teacher. He taught music was head of music in the school that I used to go to in Essex. And I come out of music college and I was back there teaching in the evenings at the school. And he was there and we did loads and loads of stuff together. That was in the 80s. And I hadn't seen him for goodness knows since about 1987. And then we met again at a colleague's party about 4 years ago, and then suddenly he's turned up on the river just like that, him and his family. Amazing. He was a smashing bloke. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, okay, right, let's we were talking about steering on the boat, and at the moment what with the tiller steer, let's turn it around so you can probably get a better idea what's going on. So where are we? We've got the tiller steer on there, and I'm looking on possibly putting on a wheel. I've got a wheel, but it's just a case of working out how we would fix cables and all the rest of it. Let's have a close look. So do I put a binnacle? Do I do something on top of the engine compartment? Do I have something fixed there on the deck there? Or do I have something like the old landing craft did, and they have one on the side but it's kind of sideways? You know, not quite sure. I'd be very interested in any comments or any suggestions you might have. That's probably a little bit sort of into the future. Maybe sort of over winter we might start looking at that, or maybe next year. What I want to do this winter is to finish the decking off and then get the inside of the boat painted up. I want to get the fiberglassing done on the floor, and possibly also to replace all the seating that we've got, which is in quite a bad way really. It's quite a sorry state. Also you can see the mast that they had on here is in a right old state as well, so that needs replacing. I'm wondering what to replace it with, because ideally that would be where the nav lights go. At the moment I've managed to fix them up on the front, which is cool, but I can't really use that to stand like that. It's in the wrong place. But will it go on the back? Not really, unless I create some form of mast or something out the back of the boat. But as I say, there's only a limit to what you can do given sort of the season. The fact is the boat is out of the water. So next thing we've got to do really is to, oh yeah, what's the other thing I haven't spoken about? The steps. Now apparently these steps come from a swimming pool, I've been told all sorts of weird and wonderful stories. They certainly look like those steps have come from a swimming pool, and that's what I tell people when they come on the boat. And that's why when people come on, they have to turn around backwards and go down the steps as if they're getting into a swimming pool. And I do suggest that if they do find their feet getting wet as they get to the bottom of the steps, they better tell me quick, because obviously we've got a hole in the boat. Now, I have to say that so far, touch wood and everything else, the ferry's been fairly reliable this year. Any little issues we've had, we've managed to be able to sort out in between sessions, really, if you like. But we did have one little hiccup back in August with the gearbox. It's been a difficult week because on Monday I found myself halfway across the river, just having dropped someone off, and suddenly I had no drive, so I was stuck. Luckily Gus was on the side, so using my throw bag I was able to get the boat rescued and pulled into the side where we could work out what on earth had gone wrong. Obviously it seemed to be it was a gearbox problem, and so I set about stripping things down, and oddly enough it wasn't actually the gearbox itself that was at fault, although there is some wear and tear there. In the actual fact, it was this cushion drive. This is the shock absorber between the engine and the gearbox, and normally you expect the splines to go all the way through looking a bit like that, but as you can see, the other side, they're pretty well worn away. In fact, when I took the gearbox out and put the thing on there, the thing just spun over the splines. So obviously that was the noise that I heard the other week when Neil was running the boat, and we had this awful noise. Neil, we did put it down to a loose washer, but obviously it's a little bit more than that. Amazingly, I was able to pop up with Linda up to Stalham, where Gus had told us about a fantastic guy called Toby who runs marine transmissions, and he was brilliant. He had a look at it, and unfortunately he didn't have any sort of recon gearboxes in, but he had one of those cushion drives, a second-hand one, which he let me hang on to just to get me out of trouble. And the plan will be at the end of this season we'll get the gearbox up to Toby and he'll get the thing reconditioned. So all good news there, but that will probably teach me not to sort of thrash and bash the gearbox about too much. So it obviously doesn't want a lot of hard wear, so we'll check out for that next time round. Okay, well that just about wraps it up for this episode, but I just have to say one last little thing. Linda looked through what we'd done for this one and thought I was being rather negative about the boat, about the fact that this needs doing, that needs doing, blah 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 blah. But the thing is, what you got to remember, this is an incredibly stable boat. It's a very strong boat for what we do. Let me just give you an idea of just its stability. Okay. Now, just to give you an idea, if I just stand on the gunnels here, there's not much happens. Now, there's a lot of little cruisers, you do that and you're all over the place. When they did the stability test on this boat, they dragged a load of people out of the pub, weighed them on a weighing machine and counted up all the kilograms, and had them stood all along the gunnels, just along the side of the quay heading here, just to see how much the boat moved. And it didn't really move that much. So we've got some good stuff to work with for a start off, but as I say, this is all about developing the boat, making it stronger, making it better, making it so much more user friendly. So there we go. In the next episode we'll be looking at actually helming the boat, and I'll tell you a bit more about the service and what we do at the moment and how we can sort of develop and get more ideas for the future as well. Okay, so whatever you're doing, take care, and if you're on the water, stay safe.